Hello and welcome to the Feminine Millionaire Show. I'm your host, Polly Alexander. I'm a success coach, intuitive healer, and a passionate creative. And I believe that we all have the power to manifest magic and miracles into our life. If creating success in a spiritual, feminine, and joyful way is your goal, this show is for you. You'll understand how to overcome your past, bring your soul's greatest gifts to the world, and up-level your income, impact, joy, and happiness. Let's all rise together. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Feminine Millionaire Show. The hidden wisdom in your monthly flow. Now, this episode is a little bit different to the kind of content I normally bring you, but it's such an important topic. And I had personally such a powerful experience this week that I wanted to capture it whilst it was fresh and alive in my field, because it really shares how potent we are as women when we can use our menstrual cycle to create more abundance of wisdom, abundance of flow. And I'm really passionate about using our feminine energy to create more flow. So if you currently have a cycle, this episode is going to dive specifically into how to harness when you bleed to access the hidden wisdom. If you no longer have a cycle, if you're complete with your menstruation, then you could try tapping into the hidden wisdom during the full moon. So if you're a regular listener, you will know that the last week of every month in my business is slow week. What does this mean? It means that I don't book in client sessions or teach programs or schedule meetings during this week. And it allows me to truly be in my feminine energy and to flow with what feels most aligned. So I'm often creating content, creating programs, working on projects. Sometimes I'm on holiday, but I always slow down and go with the flow. And it's a deeply nourishing time that allows me to fill my tank to really deliver the next 3 weeks of the month. And there was a rare opportunity for me personally this week. Slow week coincided with my flow week, with the time of the month when I bleed. So I was actually given the chance to surrender deeply to this phase of my cycle and be truly present for the bleed, for its gifts and messages, and for the energy of this time. Now, of course, we often can't do that. We often have jobs booked months in advance. We often have clients booked in. We have children to care for. We have responsibilities that don't allow us to take 24 hours, 48 hours, or a few days off at this time of the month. So I acknowledge that. And I invite you into doing what you can here. Okay, so if you can't take 24 hours off, as I did, perhaps you can take an hour off or a couple of hours. And I'll talk more about how to do this later in this episode. But first of all, I want to share some of the benefits of creating this space for the hidden wisdom when you bleed. It's a natural meditative state. So meditation and presence comes much more effortlessly to you at this time, which is actually really nice. You might find your mind slows down, the chatter subsides. The second benefit is that it's a really powerful time for reviewing your life. You're acutely tuned into what is and isn't working and what's true for you. Thirdly, it's a deeply restorative time where you can really allow yourself to let go, to relax, to be still. The fourth benefit is that you have the ability to see the truth in all things. It's like you can get right to the heart of the matter in your perception. And this is what I experienced this month so powerfully. It's almost like the veil is pulled back and you can see the truth of things. The fifth benefit is you get to align with your natural rhythm. That as women, we go through these 4 phases in the menstrual or hormonal cycle, and each phase has a different rhythm. And the more that you can align with these phases, the easier things are going to be, the more graceful things are going to flow. So I'm just talking about the menstrual phase today, but there are different phases. And so when you can do this, it's a more feminine way of working and creating. And the sixth benefit is that you can experience just a deep sense of acceptance about everything. You'll probably find you can't be bothered to be annoyed, to be angry, to resist, that you're just a lot more relaxed about things. And it's just really nice to feel this naturally. Situations that probably a few days before were intensely triggering in that intense time of PMS, suddenly you don't care. And it's effortless. So I'm going to share a short story today of a meeting that I actually had scheduled for the second day of my flow. Now, I would normally avoid this, but there were outside circumstances that meant it had to happen then. And I was in the full potency of my flow. And I had quite a remarkable experience. So I truly believe that it was supposed to be like this, that I was supposed to have this meeting, this experience at this particular time in my cycle. So, without going into too many details that aren't relevant here, I had a meeting with, let's call him an authority figure. And as he launched into a lengthy monologue, I was able to pull back into my energy and witness what he was revealing about himself and how he viewed the world. And I'd gone to this person to discuss an issue I was having, but instead the meeting was hijacked and he revealed his truths, his beliefs about the world. Even through all of this, I was able to perceive his childhood and his upbringing. Some of the things that I picked up were change isn't good. Things are not what they used to be. I heard him talk about how many people dislike him. I witnessed as he moved from the victim into the villain, blaming others, and then into the hero when he talked about how he'd saved certain situations and possible outcomes from happening. I was there to discuss action on a particular matter, and then he turned into the villain again, judgmental, dismissive, bullying and scornful. I saw the little boy and his desire to please the mother playing out. I picked up his prejudices and beliefs about how the world functions. I observed his attempt to use fear to try to intimidate me. And I got clarity on the situation in a way I didn't expect. I got answers in so many unexpected ways because I was in this vortex of seeing beyond the veil. I was truly blown away by the experience and how I seem to have this ability to see the truth of all things, to not be in an emotional or reactive state, but to be in a state of presence and observation and wisdom. I was also able to witness how I responded or didn't and observe my own patterns. It was like a sacred vortex of wisdom where I could access things on a different level to normal. So, how do you access this inherent wisdom that's available to you at this time in your cycle? Here's a few tips. The first one is you need to create a space just to be present with your bleed. So, ideally, 12 or 24 hours to go really deep if you can. But if your schedule doesn't permit that, and mine often doesn't, see if you can create an hour or two. Do what you can. And then you're going to need to put strong boundaries around your availability for others in this space that you create so that you can really hear the inner wisdom. You can really perceive it as it comes through. Now, don't be surprised if there are challenges that the universe invites you to really stand in your power around your boundaries. Now, go offline, and if you can, go to bed. It's just a very soft, nurturing space that can hold you. Just stop, be present, be still, and have your journal close by. I actually wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote as the awareness is poured out of me, just so effortlessly. I also spent a very beautiful and nurturing time in the bath, just being present in that natural meditative state. Now, something interesting I learned is that this state can actually come in a few days before you bleed. And I realized that I, in fact, drop into this more insular meditative state about 48 hours before I physically start bleeding. And often my bleed will wait for a relaxed moment to break through. So if I have clients or meetings or a situation I'm seeking to complete, it'll often wait until there's a gap. So I'm going to wrap up with some of the optimum things to do during this time so that you can really mine the wisdom. And then I'm going to share a couple of books which go more deeply into the energetic states and practices that you can do during this time. So some of the optimum things that you can do during this time are to reflect on your life, what's working and what's not. Number 2, to review where your time and energy went the past month. Number 3 is to let go of trying to do anything. And I really recommend this for the first 24 hours of starting your bleed. Just let go of resistance. Let go of trying to do anything at all. You can also reflect on what's true for you. It's definitely the reflective phase. And reflect on where you want your focus to be for the next month. But don't take action yet. This is not a time for action, even if you feel like you want to. And as I move through this phase of my cycle, I definitely have moments when I just want to start doing things. And it's a journey for me to stay in this reflective space. So if you'd like to know more about how to work with your cycle, with all phases of your cycle, there's a couple of books that I've found really powerful. The first one is The Optimized Woman by Miranda Gray. And the second one is Wild Power by Alexandra Pope and Sajani Hugo Wurlitzer. So if this episode has been interesting or enlightening for you, or in fact you've had similar experiences with this phase of your cycle, I would love to hear. You can DM me on Instagram, or you can screenshot this episode on your phone and share to Instagram. Make sure you tag me at Polly_Alexander. Wishing you a wildly abundant week, and I'll see you back here again next week.